We start tonight with the scandal consuming the Trump White House as MAGA leaders, top Democrats, and nonpartisan journalists demand answers about the Epstein files. This is new and dangerous territory for Donald Trump, as for the first time, he appears unable to control his own base. This morning, D.C. woke up to headlines like these. MAGA revolt. Trump discovers MAGA has no off switch. Trump and MAGA are no longer the same thing. Images of MAGA supporters literally burning their red MAGA hats are going viral online. And all of this comes a day after Trump berated Republicans as, quote, stupid and foolish for wanting more information about the disgraced financier who died by suicide while in federal custody. Today, Trump's secretary was bombarded with Epstein questions at this press conference.
Does the president believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied?
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that?
Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
An absolute barrage of questions with no relief in sight. Politico writes this, quote, Trump is like a magician who has locked himself in a straitjacket, only to find that he's lost his ability to maneuver out of it and finds his audience turning on him. Among those now speaking out are Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence, as well as top GOP senators and the MAGA broadcasters.
I think the time has come for the administration to release all of the files regarding Jeffrey Epstein's investigation and prosecution.
Maybe I'm just getting old and forgetting things, but I could have sworn that we had people campaigning, and if I get elected, we're going to release the files, right?
Yeah.
So
yes.
Release the damn files. Get over it.
It's the administration and their handling of this, which is why everyone's talking about it. It didn't have to be handled this way. It's been abysmal.
I am trying to get you to take the political gun out of your mouth. You already blown both your feet off. And now you got it shoved in your mouth. I'm like, will you please take that out of your mouth? You're like, shut up. Don't talk about it. You have put the gun in your mouth and ours collectively. Stop it. Stop it.
And in a rare display of bipartisanship, top Democrats have also gotten in on the act, hammering Trump on the Epstein question.
For years, Donald Trump and the MAGA movement have railed on about the Epstein files. But now, a complete reversal. Trump is straight up gaslighting the American public.
The president had run on a campaign with a promise to expose the Epstein files. Now he and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, say, nope, nothing to investigate. When it comes to Epstein and sex trafficking, all these claims are just ludicrous.
Amid these calls for greater transparency, there's also new scrutiny on an unexplained move from the Trump DOJ. Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, was until recently a longtime federal prosecutor who worked on a number of high-profile cases, including the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's associate. This week, Trump's DOJ fired her. Critics say it appears to be an effort to intimidate perceived enemies. Today, in a farewell email to her colleagues, Comey said that the DOJ letter informing her of her termination provided no reason for her discharge. In the email, which MSNBC has obtained, Comey issued a sharp warning to her colleagues in the Southern District of New York, saying, quote, if a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen. Fear is the tool of a tyrant wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place, a fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, of dedication to truth above all else. And that is where we start tonight. Donald Trump under fire from the MAGA base amid broader warnings about a presidential power grab. Joining me now is Barrett Berger, a former federal prosecutor from the Southern District of New York, and Aisha Mills, political strategist and former resident fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School of Politics. Aisha, you saw Donald Trump's press secretary faced with a barrage of questions over the Epstein files. Why can't Donald Trump figure out how to defuse this bomb?
Because Donald Trump doesn't want to. I mean, here's the thing. I just want to acknowledge for everybody who's watching this that we have literally been on like a week and a half distraction from what's really going on in America right now. Donald Trump is gutting the government. They literally just rescinded $9 billion in foreign aid. They're trying to shut down public broadcasting. They're taking Medicare from people, Medicaid from people. And here's where we are, is we're talking about this. We know that Donald Trump doesn't actually care about the victims, about those poor girls who are human trafficked. I think right now we need to be focusing on actually the victims of this and trying to get justice for them. And that's not something that Donald Trump is ever going to talk about. Ever.
I don't disagree, but he is losing his base over this. Like, there are folks in the MAGA faithful who are angry and they are baying for blood. Barrett, do you think the DOJ actually has more information than they're letting on here, and that there's something to these calls for transparency?
Well, I'm sure the DOJ has, thousands and thousands of pages of information that they produced in discovery. But the problem is not all information is sufficient to be released to the public. I mean, here you're going to have hours and hours of child pornography that was captured on these recordings. You're going to have information that identifies victims, that gives personal stuff about them. You're going to have information that was gained through judicial process, like a grand jury, that simply cannot be disclosed according to law. So I think the big problem we have here is one of an explanation. Explaining exactly why certain things can't be released, what the basis is. It may not satisfy people who've really had their hearts set on getting their hands on this, but just because they can't see it doesn't mean they should.
Well, that's a great question, Aisha. So there's a lot of information here for lots of different reasons. Much of it likely cannot be released, but we are seeing people online burning their MAGA hats. And these are people who are deeply with the president. It seems like they would be receptive to an explanation, any explanation from this man whom they revere. Why won't this just go away? Why can't they give the explanation?
Well, listen, I think that Donald Trump, well, we all know, actually, let me not, say, I think Donald Trump is guilty of a variety of things and hasn't been held accountable for them, period. What his base does and our distraction with that is literally that. What I'm interested in, be it Republican or be it Democrat, is why isn't anybody talking about the fact that if they were so riled up about this Epstein case and getting justice for these victims, why is Donald Trump defunding, literally just completely dismantled the Violence Against Women Act? And completely defunded all support for people who have been trafficked, for human trafficking. There's so much that could actually happen that would be with regards to policy that would actually support and protect people that we could be talking about. And right now it just feels more like a political circus that I don't think is going anywhere.
So, Barrett, this is a political circus, and it actually doesn't feel like Donald Trump is necessarily in the middle of it. The one person who does seem to be getting the brunt of all of this is Attorney General Pamela Jo Bondi. How much trouble is she in from this base that's calling for her ouster?
Seemingly a lot. It seems like she still has the support of the president, but as we know, you have the support of the president until you don't. And to Aisha's point, the fact that anyone who actually cares about protecting victims and standing up for them and doing something about sex trafficking, the person who cared the most about doing that was the person they just fired. Maureen Comey, more than anyone else, was somebody who not only, talked the talk of wanting to protect victims, but spent the last decade doing the hard work to do that, not just in the Epstein case, but as we just saw over the last 2 months in the Combs case. This is somebody who's dedicated...
This is the P. Diddy trial.
Correct. Yeah. So this is somebody who has just dedicated her career to standing up for victims, to doing the work that people are talking about. And the fact that they've fired her while also saying, we care about this, is just wildly inconsistent.
And keep in mind that this president has spent most of his life trying to avoid accountability for the things that he's done against women. So here we are.
Well, let's go to Maureen Comey. Barrett, what do you make of this? This seems to be a very unusual step, an unorthodox step, to fire a career prosecutor who has never had any complaints about her performance, but she also happens to be the daughter of someone who has, even in the last couple of months, been the target of a lot of ribbing from the Trump loyalists. What's actually going on here?
I mean, on one hand, it seems very consistent with the pattern that we've seen. We've seen plenty of not only DOJ folks being fired, but, across the government, we've seen sort of these wide sales. This one's different because it is so individually targeted to her with really no connection to her actual work as a prosecutor, at least what we know so far. I mean, it seems like from her resignation email, this was totally unexpected from her, and the letter gives no explanation other than, citing to Article 2, which is just the executive's, I guess, authority to do so, but really gives no analysis or rationale for this. Right. This is really, it feels just so personal. And I said before, it just, to me, strikes me more because of her last name than anything that she has ever done as a prosecutor.
As a former prosecutor yourself, what do you make of her farewell email to her colleagues at the Southern District of New York?
It was a wonderful email. It was, very righteous, talked a lot about what everyone, not just in the Southern District, but I think throughout U.S. attorneys' offices in the country, what we sort of embodied, which was this idea of prosecuting cases without fear or favor. And
the Southern District, that has been its credo for a long time, the sovereign district of New York.
And you need that ethos because what you're doing is prosecuting people regardless of their political party. The Southern District of New York has brought cases against Republicans as often as it's brought cases against Democrats. It's brought cases against powerful people and people with no power. So they really live up to this credo. And the fact that she cites that and really seems to be saying this is now in jeopardy is pretty striking.